Hello everyone, welcome to EDFL Web TV Podcast edition. The pod is back. We're at Essendon due to Stars, sitting at Nipper Jordan Oval, and joining me is a not past fit for TV, but ready to run on radio, Adem Sariacoglu. Sackers, thanks for joining us.
I'm never fit for TV, Teo, but it's okay. I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to talk about another big week of EDFL footy.
And hello to everyone who's come here from the video. If you're thinking, why didn't they talk about my team, or why didn't they talk about that game for very long? Well, we've decided to bring back the pod so we can flesh out issues. We decided against it for the first month or so of the season just because, you know, teams are still sorting themselves out, but now we're at a stage of the year where some of these games really need a bit of context and a bit of in-depth discussion, and as is the case with videos and so forth, it's much easier to produce a podcast than it is to produce a video. So here we are, and of course you can subscribe to the EDFL YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. You get notifications as soon as the videos go online, and that way you can stay across all things EDFL footy. But Adam, as we sit here at Nipper Jordan Oval, watching Essendon due to Stars train tonight, Division 1 is where we will begin. Let's start with the Stars. Why not? They had an ugly win against Tullamarine, 10-16-76 to 2-13-25. And I heard that this one was just an arm wrestle. Tullamarine really committed numbers around the ball and behind the ball and tried to lock this down. The burning question is this Tullamarine trying to formulate a game plan that can beat Craigieburn and due to Stars? Or was this just a bit of a short-term attempt to protect the percentage, and maybe that percentage that they save, so to speak, will come back and help them at the back end of the season? Are you leaning more towards game plan for future or protect the percentage?
No, I think it's percentage. Dooders and Craigieburn are a long way ahead of everyone else right now, Teo, and you know, to be honest, I was surprised. I mean, they were so bullish against West Meadows. We saw that game live, and you know, they were, especially once the comeback started to the mid-second quarter, they were playing with such freedom, which they did under Ash Manning a lot. And for some reason, I've spoken to people that were at this game at Nipper Jordan Oval on Saturday, and Tulla just decided to completely lock this game down, and it was just so far removed from what they did 7 days earlier. It surprised me a lot. The only reason I can think of is damage control, knowing they can't beat Dooders right now.
Well, for those of you who may have listened to Steve Burns' interview, the full audio version is actually part of this podcast. If you go down and click Show More, you'll see the timecode links for all the interviews we did on EDFL Radio during the week, so make sure you click through and you can actually listen to it without having to open a new window. But for those of you that watched the little grab on EDFL Web TV, where Steve Burns was on camera, he said that he believes that it's pretty much open other than the top two, which are running away, Craigieburn and due to Stars. And are we starting to see teams take the attitude that it's all about finishing third right now, and then maybe we'll just try and catch one of the top two on an off day if we're the lucky ones in the prelim final? Or do you really think that one of these teams is going to work out how to close the gap? Because Craigieburn had, the Cloaks kicked 16 between them, and everyone was expecting them to win against East Keilor. I was pretty surprised that it was as close as it was at half-time, and then they've just unleashed in the second half and ended up being three figures. So is it a case where the top two have legitimately broken away and no one's going to touch them? Or do you think that someone can close the gap and turn it back into a three-horse race? I
still think the two of them would be worried about West Meadows on their good days. When they've had the bye this week, we'll see how they come out and respond after a really big wake-up call, and the coach certainly gave them that on Web TV. Everyone would have seen it by now, and everyone knows that they might be a tad mentally soft, and they'll be working on that and wanting to make a statement this week. West Meadows up against Dooders, we'll find out. But the top two, obviously Craigieburn and Dooders right now are favourites, but I'm pretty sure they'll be worried about West Meadows, and let's not forget that Oak Park's still on the same win-loss as Dooders as well.
What did you think of West Meadows going public with Dave Connell's contract extension during the week? My understanding is that this could have been announced at any time, and that it was in the pipeline. And was it just a matter of waiting until they were backs to the wall just to say, hey, we back our coach? Or do you reckon they'd always planned on announcing it during bye week that he has 3 more years at the club, and they've really committed to him as the coach?
Yeah, I think just a bit of PR. I think there, Teo.
Got a good response. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Westie people read that story and saw that story. So
yeah, we still want people talking about us even though we're not playing. I think that was the game plan there, and it worked. And after a loss, slightly surprising timing, especially when you got the coach coming out and saying, "Look, we have no on-field leadership." Well, that can fall on the coaching if you want to interpret it a certain way, those particular words. But yeah, good faith in him, and obviously took this club from out of nowhere last year from the doldrums and took them to the finals. So it's been a steady rise for West Meadows, and hopefully it continues.
Let's talk about Oak Park versus Taylors Lakes. We'll get to Hillside versus Glenroy in a moment because we'll go in depth on that one. But the other result at the weekend, Oak Park more than doubling their score in the final quarter to overrun Taylors Lakes 13-18-96 to 10-5-65. So I think this one goes down as one that got away for Taylors Lakes, and for the second time this year, Oak Park leave it late in the final quarter to get 4 very important points. And I think Taylors Lakes will be kicking themselves that they dropped this one from what looked like for most of the day a winning position.
Yeah, I don't know much about Liam Malloy. First game for the year, Taylor. I don't know who he is, but he's kicked 3 goals for Oak Park. So a good sign that there are some guys coming through that will be able to contribute later on in the year, which is probably what they need if they make finals and they want to have an impact. Well, they've got to look beyond, I suppose, their current stocks and see how much depth they have got down there. But I'm really fearful for Taylors Lakes. I've almost written them off finals contention already. I know it's only 1 game out, but okay. I am not feeling very confident about Taylors Lakes all at the moment. They're just not showing anything near close enough to final standard of footy from what I've seen.
Well, we'll keep an eye on them because they're the team that's very much in the mix at the moment, still for 4th, but under a bit of the pump now. Let's get to the main course. Hillside 15-9-99, Glenroy 14-13-97. You made a very good point in the call, Adam, that we have seen a situation like this before, where the siren's gone as the ball is in the air. Of course, it was the Premier Grand Final a couple of years ago when Strathmore... Daniel Jones thought he had that mark on the half-forward flank and he gave away the push-in-the-back free kick. So even if he'd clasped the ball before the siren went, he would have given away a free, and let's face it, it would have been a pretty difficult shot for goal. But that was then. This is fresh in the memory. You were standing at the front of the box commentating. I was sitting in the box. I could not hear the siren at all, but you definitely heard it with the ball in the air before Jaden Borg grabbed the mark.
Yeah, well, my memory of it, Teo, I'm not sure if I remember the first instance of the siren blowing, but obviously watching the Jaden Borg mark, and then I heard the siren going. My sort of interpretation of the situation was the siren must have gone before he'd taken the mark, because I didn't hear the siren start sort of after he took it. So well, it was more an assumption that the siren must have gone before he took the mark. It was very loud. It was in a pretty loud part of the ground.
In the footage, you see a Hillside player celebrate in the foreground.
Yep.
And totally oblivious to the fact that Borg has marked the ball. And Amy Miller, the umpire who joined us in special comments, said exactly the same thing when I was off filming the club's song in the rooms. I went and listened back to what you guys were talking about in the aftermath of the game, and she mentioned that one of the players in the foreground actually raises his arm and celebrates, totally unaware that Borg is actually marking the ball. So that player from Hillside must have had a clear passage to the blower and heard the siren. Lance Whitnall, as we heard in his interview, and again, if you can click through and listen to the radio version in full as part of this podcast, but he said that he didn't hear it, no one from Glenroy heard it, and I guess it's just one of those things. The umpires did the right thing. They had a conference. They came to the right decision, and thankfully no one made a hasty decision or, mercifully, we don't have this game going to be resolved at a tribunal. It was sorted out right out there on the field at the time. Either
way, the lesser call had to be made if umpires weren't sure, which would have been no mark. So in the end, the right decision's being made no matter what. But I'm personally 95% confident that the siren did blow before Jaden Borg was able to take that mark and have his shots. And Glenroy was stiff, but so was he. He would have had goal number 4 from point blank range. It would have been a match-winning goal. So bad luck for Jaden Borg and the Roy boys. And I don't think anyone heard the siren from the other side of the ground tail. It was a very, very loud atmosphere, I suppose, down at Shark Park. We were next to quite a vocal group of supporters.
Yeah, Hillside Reserves must be a fun team to play for, I reckon, because they had a good old time during the senior game, didn't they? Let's get on to an issue that Adam Russell and I discussed on the camera for Web TV, and that is Glenroy. Are they actually in trouble of being relegated? Because it's kind of fitting we're sitting right here at Dooders. I mean, they lost all those close games last year. We just assumed that, you lose a few close ones, you eventually turn it around and you get it right. What if this doesn't turn around for Glenroy? What if these close losses are the ones that they should have been winning, and it only gets worse from here? I mean, I think that Julich is the best player in the comp, if not in the top 5. I think Josh Tremberth, the way he played at the weekend, that's as good as anyone can play in midfield in Division 1. But they just don't have 22 at the moment. What are your thoughts on Glenroy? Are they in legitimate trouble of being relegated? Because I still think it's between Hillside and East Keilor from this point forward.
We spoke to Lance on Saturday evening, Teo, and he did mention it's a very young side, obviously, from what they've had in recent years, and that was a team playing finals, playing in the grand final, almost got promoted. And, two of those blokes are right here where we are tonight in a very famous circumstances. But it's a bit... We talk about, at the top level, Geelong, a lot of top experience, older bodies, and a lot of young guys, not much in the middle. That's sort of my read on Glenroy at the moment. There, not so many blokes there that probably could say that they're peaking in their careers right now. There's a lot of young kids, a lot of guys that have been around a long time, and for mine, not too much in the middle. I mean, I'm not sure how old Trenberth is, but he was a really good player. He's had a good year as well.
16 or 17. So
and he's had a really good year. He's featured in the best 5 times now this year. So
we saw him last year playing as a small forward, and he's moved into almost a full-time midfielder now, and he's prolific. So I just hope they bat deep enough in that midfield that he doesn't get the number one target from the opposition every week now.
But, they brought back Adam Dennis after a year in the Northern League, and didn't look like he could physically impose himself on the game a whole lot. It's just...
What did you make of Steve Burns' comment that he was just hoping that they didn't move Julik on the ball, and much to his relief, they either played him in the forward line or the back line? I mean, does Trav need to go and play as a non-baller for Glenroy? Or is he still too valuable, as Lance Whitnall said, playing as a centre-half back that can then push up the ground?
Yeah, they're not an overly tall side, Glenroy, so they don't really have the luxury of being able to use Julik in that way. There's a lot of smaller bodies in that lineup, and as the game was getting tight, you could see it down at both ends. He was hovering around the 50 arcs and imposing himself in the marking contests, and I still believe that's where he's going to be most valuable. This is a side that can't afford to have someone as big and physically imposing as him running around your midfield, I don't think.
Now, Hillside, it's not job done. It's only the first win. They're probably going to need 4 to stay up, I reckon. Maybe 3, but probably 4 wins. So they're barely a quarter of the way there as far as I'm concerned. Where does the improvement come from? Because they've fallen over the line against the fellow winless team. As we know, Stocko, they want him to play forward, but he's got to play further up the ground to help out at the moment. Rocky Ferraro, his first full game, he'll be better for the run. But they're going to need to improve on this. Otherwise, this might be their only win for the year. They can't play like this every week and expect to get to 4 or 5 wins in safety.
Yeah, it's been a massive transition since they won a flag. Both these clubs actually played in a grand final on the same weekend 2 years ago and are running out with very different 22s now. Hillside's chock full of kids, obviously, a lot of Western Jets.
Jaden Murdoch,
guns.
His parents called the EDFL office trying to get hold of the Vision. I think they both wanted to have another look. EDFL.TV, of course, if you want to watch the full game start to finish. But for a senior debut, I reckon the Western Jets coaching staff would have said, "All right, you've made your point. Come back to the Jets."
Hope Mr. and Mrs. Murdoch enjoy the call, by the way, Teo. Look, there's a lot of talent in that side, but it's going to take a long time. If they can keep it all together, then it's going to take a long time to be able to get it right. And look, this is a team in transition at the moment. They've really got to... Burnsy's got to try and get a settled 22 going, but I don't think it's going to happen. They've already played 36 players this year, and it's only, round 6? They've played a third of the season. They've already played 36 players. It's a large number. So they need to really knuckle down on what they think is their best 22, and if it is filled with, I think he mentioned 4 18s in his current best 22. If that is the case, then they need to be regular 18s, not playing 18s footy, playing senior footy week in, week out. I think that's what they need to be able to get going and try and score a few more wins. I mean, I felt like they controlled this game from start to finish. Glenroy made their comebacks, but I reckon it was played on Hillside's terms throughout. They're a very talented unit. They just need to be unified.
Yeah, I mean, the only time where I really felt like Glenroy were about to take away the game was when they got a run on in time on of the second quarter. I thought there was a real chance they could have hit the front by half-time, and Hillside managed to hold out to the siren and still take that lead into the sheds at half-time. But that was when I felt like Glenroy were really about to run away with the game. You're listening to the EDFL podcast. Thank you for joining us, coming over from EDFL Web TV. And we're going to move on to Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. Adam, we talked about competitive balance on Web TV last week, and a couple of those scorelines there still suggesting that the gap between the top and the bottom is way too big. Aberfeldy 215 to 19 against Airport West, and Keilor 186 to 47 against the Northern Saints. And Aberfeldy didn't have a big bag. Everyone, kicked 4 or 3, and they all got in on the act, really. So I suggested that there was a ruthlessness to them this year, and that whole idea of no longer having the day off or the game off or throwing in the bad one, that was what was probably the top priority to be eliminated from the way they go about it. And, it's really consistent this season, and I guess that's what they would have wanted.
13 goal kickers they had, and Zach Hislop leading the way. It's a big name down at Clifton Park, the Hislop name, and Zach got in on the action. The goal count was only up to 4 on the weekend, but that's okay.
Yeah, had to. He could have had top spot on the goal kicking if he'd been able to get off the chain in this one.
It's easy to talk about Aberfeldy, but I want to talk a little bit about Airport West because I'm seriously worried. I'm going through their 22 on the weekend and throughout the year. I've called a number of Airport West games now over the last couple of years, and I don't recognise any of the names there. Seriously, I don't know who these guys are at the moment, and I'm really fearful for where they're at.
Is the fact that they I've said in the record this week that their exposed form against everyone else has been putrid, but they rose to the occasion and beat Northern Saints quite handsomely. So when you look ahead to playing West Coburg this weekend, is it again a case of picking your moments, and while it's not much fun playing Aberfeldy and Greenvale in the meantime, that at least they are rising to the occasion against other teams that are a bit closer to their level of talent?
This is one thing I'm worried about with Airport West as well. All of the bottom 4 teams have now played Aberfeldy Teo. The Northern Saints lost by 160. West Coburg 134, Maribyrnong Park 107, and Airport West lost by 196. Now that's 6 goals worse than the Northern Saints result against Aberfeldy. That's extremely worrying.
If it comes down to the percentage at the end of the year, that'll matter. But right now, if they were playing Northern Saints for the second time around, you'd say that they're going to go 2-0 against them, and Northern Saints won't get them. So,
well, that's how I'm reading it, Teo. Airport West. The team that's lacking the most firepower for mine right now, and that's a big call considering how badly West Coburg's offence has been. But I'll go ahead with this tip now. West Coburg is going to beat Airport West, in my opinion, this weekend, Teo.
Well, we'll tip it all game by game, but I've tipped them as well. Yeah. I agree with you, but that's also a product of West Coburg leading for 3 quarters against Marby and then being pipped at the post in the last quarter. I haven't had any accounts of this game, so I'm speaking from a largely uninformed position on exactly how the last quarter panned out, but that's a rough loss for West Coburg, given that they win that one. They can probably play out the rest of the year with total freedom of mind about relegation. Now, they've still got to look over their shoulder at least until they play Northern Saints the second time around.
Yeah, or at least they'll competitive again after a couple of lean weeks. But, look, Marby seem to be going okay in patches here and there, but they're still relying on the same blokes. They're still relying on the Lees, and Costello had a good game, but been asking for a couple of weeks now, who's next coming through? A lot of guys that probably need to step up to the plate a little bit, and too much reliability on 2 or 3 is not going to be healthy for Maribyrnong Park. But
I hate to say this, Adam, because we try to get to every club. I think we did 22 or 23 out of the 27 clubs for a radio game last year, so almost the majority of them. But Marby either need to get significantly worse or significantly better, otherwise we probably won't call a game of theirs this year. Really, they're already safely ensconced in no man's land, and unless they can close the gap to the top 4, I doubt exactly what relevance they're going to have positively or negatively this season. And that is no disrespect to the Marby players, because they've put the work in to win the games, to mean that they're already well and truly out of the relegation battle already. It's simply a question of, can they try to latch onto the coattails of the top 4?
I think they're going to build to something big, though, eventually. Not yet. Costello's only just come in as coach, second year at the club, but first year as coach, obviously. And look, they're going okay to be where they're at the moment. I mean, they're not going to go down. They're probably not going to make finals either. They could shape the finals.
They've had a couple of very successful under-16s teams last year.
Yep.
So they've got something to look forward to in that respect.
They can build on that. They can have a good summer. And they can come up and start pushing the top 4 again, and we'll start talking about them again. But unfortunately, that's just the way Premier is right now, Teo. There are a couple of clubs that are just making up the numbers. Marby's one of them, unfortunately.
Let's move on to the next game, which was Strathmore being beaten by Avondale Heights. And Adam, your premiership pick is finally starting to do the right thing by you, because they had a very good win, the Heights, 40 points in the end. And the thing, I'm trying to work out what's wrong with Strathmore. Adem and I touched on it briefly on camera, but Kennedy, who's played under-18s last year, started the year in the reserves, has come in and kicked 3 goals. Crigliano, who's another kid, was in the best. I think second named in the best. So who's not getting it done at Strathmore, or what isn't getting it done? Because my theory at the start of the season was they probably just had one kid too many. They had too many under-18s players complementing that senior core. A couple of injuries to Horn and Knight came along, and all of a sudden maybe they were just not quite as, senior and authoritarian as some of the other teams in Premier. But now I'm at a bit of a loss as to exactly what is the missing ingredient there at Strathmore. And I guess the good news is if he's match fit and ready to go, they've got Todd Grimer back this week from his suspension coming out of the grand final, which was 6 weeks.
They haven't improved. You have to improve at Premier. I mean, we're talking about semi-professional football, if not some sort of level of professional football now, Teo. And if you're not improving from year to year, regardless of what you achieved, you're not going to be able to maintain your level of success from the year before. So,
if people wondering, we're at Duda's for the podcast. I don't know if you can hear the honking in the background. I'm not sure if that's a tradition as they leave training, but hopefully nothing untoward's happened out there.
Yeah, my car's out there. I'm sure. I trust everyone here, and Jambo will pull me up if I go too far in that one. But we were talking about Strathmore, Teo, weren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, you said they haven't improved enough. Yeah,
they are missing guys. They haven't. I don't think they've had their best 22 out on the park yet. We know about Grimer and all of that, but it's been sort of disjointed with their guys coming in and out of the side. They haven't really been able to get it together yet, which wasn't really an issue last year.
I refuse to write them off because they'd be perfectly comfortable finishing 4th and trying to win the flag from 4th.
Oh yeah. They're so definitely in the
race. They've got plenty of time. They've got some teams we get right on their case, but I think Strathmore you give them more leeway than most others.
As for Avondale Heights, they can really start building momentum now, Teo. 0-4 to start the year, but to get the 2 wins now, Marby, Northern Saints and Airport West up next before it clash with Pascoe Vale, they're going to build some momentum now. They could well get themselves into the 4 by the mid-year bye. I don't know if we get a bye in Premier or a week off, but
we got a split round, but it's in the back half of the year. Yeah,
so I reckon they can just get themselves back into the 4 Avondale Heights. I'm not surprised with this result at all. Avondale have, despite what the form line suggests on paper, they have improved. They're starting to get it together now. They've probably had the backsides kicked in a little bit by the coaching staff, and they're going to try and start getting it together. Galea's finally got a bag as 7, and he's in that personal battle with his good mate Paddy Rose, and Paddy Rose leading by 1 right now, 18 goals, and Dean Galea on 7. And Avondale Heights should have gone into this game expecting to win, and they did. Well done. Now they've got to try and consolidate with some games against, no disrespect, but lesser opposition. Start building that percentage, getting your momentum back, getting your mojo back. That's really important.
And, well, I mean, I wonder what direction their season would have gone if the fixture had actually started with Northern, Airport West, Marby, if that had been their first 3 to start the season.
Important to note, though, after this stretch of 3 games where they should be expecting to win and perhaps try and boost the percentage, Pascoe Vale, Greenvale, Abbas, they've got to get ready for that, because that's going to be the season-defining stretch of games for Avondale Heights.
Very briefly, are Marby and Avondale Heights a good argument for a top 5 in Premier? Because I'm a big fan of top 4.
Don't like top 5 either.
Yeah, I like top 4. All right, let's move on to the final game of the week. Adam Russell was there. If you are starting with the pod this week and you haven't seen the on-camera segments, click through and hear what he had to say from the scene. And his description of the game was that the Tom Hill injury, I think he had to go to hospital with a suspected concussion, was a game changer. And it had been a battle of 2 forward lines up until that point, and Greenvale basically lost their ace. So what do you make of this one? Pascoe Vale, very good win, very credible win, kicking away in the final quarter, but it was a seesaw up until then, and I think this is one of those games which has that air of unfinished business, and which will be sorted out in September, whether it's a prelim final or a grand final or an elimination final. We're still yet to find out.
Yeah. Tom Hill had 3 goals up until that point, and look, Paco are just ruthless at the moment, and we'll see how that matches up against the other ruthless team in the division in the preview segment later on, Teo. But I've got a question for you. I don't think we've brought it up just yet. Can Ben Warren get to the ton this year?
Yes, as long as he plays all the games against the bottom teams.
I think he's averaging just over 6 goals a game right now.
Yeah,
which gets him over a ton.
There'll be more bags of double figures in there if Pascoe Vale need to go chasing percentage. The only thing that'll deny them is if they get to the second time around against Northern, West Coburg, Airport West, and basically they're in a situation where they don't need percentage, so they don't need to go and kick 200 points. I mean, that's what they've been doing so far this year, but will they need it in the back half of the year? Or will it be a case of, ease up, save your legs, more important things coming at the end of the season?
Pascoe Vale has some guys that would easily still be dominating VFL level.
Oh, I mean,
I'm very comfortable in saying that.
I think that this weekend's game against Aberfeldy will be a higher standard of football than maybe one or two of the VFL matches in the VFL this weekend. Maybe even more.
Yeah.
It's as good as it gets outside of the AFL, I reckon.
Yeah, certainly.
With all due respect to the Sandful and the Waffle. Okay, it's as good as it gets outside of the AFL or the state leagues.
I was just going to say, Adam Russell talked about Tom Hill coming off and the impact it had. Look, Greenvale got within a couple of goals in the end. They're still going to be a very good side themselves, though, and they've got a lot of quality. So definitely not writing Greenvale off in the premiership conversations just yet. They've just been stiff against the top two teams right now. We'll see who the best is on Saturday. But yeah, as far as this game in the context of the season, I don't think we can read too much into it. They'll play again at Section Road later on in the year, and probably in finals. So we'll just hold off all judgments until then, I suppose. There was extenuating circumstances in this game. Let's
move on to Division 2, where we had Keilor Park beaten by Burnside Heights at home, 13-987 to 9-14-68. Burnside Heights' first win away from home, first win against an established EDFL team, and Keilor Park have now lost to 6 out of the 7 opponents in Division 2. Adam, let's start with the winners. Let's give credit to Burnside Heights first. Spread of goal kickers. Obviously, they'd been getting beaten heavily. They were well beaten by East Sunbury, and yet they've come out in a winnable game and seized the opportunity. And that's after Keilor Park, I think, kicked the first 3 goals of the afternoon as well. So they even spotted them a bit of a start, and then were able to come back and win. So fantastic result for Burnside Heights, and a credit to Tahan, Rafihi, the coach. And I mean, the thing we called for at the start of the year was a more consistent best 22, because they used 50 players the year before. We're just really trying to work out what senior footy was all about. This year it was more about actually trying to compete and close the gap, and they're doing that.
They had to beat a non-minnow, but we'll get on to the fact whether Keilor Park's a minnow or not a bit later on, Tayo. Congratulations to Burnside Heights. Like I mentioned, they had to beat someone other than East Sunbury. They've finally done that. They can tick that box for the year, but this is the kind of result now that you can start building off. You can start selling the message to the 18s coming through, like, be part of something special. We're going to be coming. We're going to start trying to win flags in a couple of years. We'll get promoted and go from there. I mean, this is a massive result in the context of trying to sell the narrative, I suppose.
Well, it's also massive because it's a team that doesn't spend a cent. They are unpaid senior players.
Well, it's common, I suppose, in Div 2, in the lower half of Div 2. And yeah, look, congratulations to them, but we do need to talk about Keilor Park because there are some serious concerns going on there.
Well, there are. Sam Sarkis and Fab Delezia didn't play for starters. Some of the rumours going around are that they may not be playing at Keilor Park very much more into the future. That's a major blow. They needed those two just to basically, I think, come up to Division 2 sort of standard. But I wonder, Adam, are they breeding a bit of an excuse culture down there at Keilor Park? Is it always someone else's fault? Whether I'm pretty sure the feedback out of this one was the umpires copped it sweet from Keilor Park, and whether or not the umpires did a good job, I think is all. It's not irrelevant, but it's kind of secondary to the fact that what are you going to do about turning this around? You can't just point at the umpires and say it was their fault. I mean, they've got to be internal things that you can look at and change each week. You can't control the umpiring week in, week out.
I'm not directing this at Keilor Park people necessarily, Tay. I'm just directing it to whoever's listening and whoever thinks that umpires actually have an effect on the outcomes of games. They don't. Okay? You got 22 blokes on each side. They're the only ones that, and the coaches obviously, they're the only ones that can impact the result. Umpires don't. They are simply there to make sure the game is played within the rules that they're allowed to be played in. Now look, you mentioned the excuse culture down at Keilor Park. I've heard rumblings about that for a couple of years now. It's down there and a lot of finger pointing and no one wants to really take responsibility. But look, everyone's got to be hands on deck down there now. Okay, I know a lot of people are walking out on the field and off the field. There's a lot of administration that aren't there anymore. Don't know why. You could ask them. They won't tell us anyway. whoever is down there right now, you've got to get on your hands and knees and start building this club again. I mean, that's all that they can do right now down at Keilor Park, and they're not far away. If they're not already there, they're not far away from being a basket case. I mean, they're losing a lot of respect within the league right now, so that's what they've got to do. They've just got to pick themselves up, go again. Simple as that. Don't really worry about the on-field so much. You'll get your second chance at Burnside Heights and East Sunbury, and you'll probably sing the song there and get your couple wins for the year. But you're not going to get relegated for finishing last. On-field's irrelevant now. Rebuild.
And the other thing is, Louis Opedisano, the coach, he is enthusiastic. He has, a strong mindset. He's the sort of guy that has the backing of the players, and that's important. But he can't do it all himself. That's the problem. He's only one guy, and even the best-run footy clubs, even AFL clubs. I mean, let's not forget, Adam, the AFL appointed Melbourne their CEO and gave them the money to hire Paul Roos. That's the AFL. I mean, local footy, I think the door to the league office has always been open, and some clubs have walked through and have devised plans and have worked hand in hand with the league and Michael Russell and other members of staff, and other clubs, would prefer to do it their own way without the league's fingerprints maybe involved in how their club is set up. But, remember, at the top level of the game in this country, the Australian Football League, the AFL handpicked Melbourne's CEO and gave them the money to go out and hire a coach. So even in the AFL, sometimes you need to look to the head office to work out how to turn things around. Anyway, as someone who works for the league, I'll draw the line there and say what I said on camera. It's the Jerry Maguire moment. Help me, help you. Let's move on. Other games in the division, Coburg District's overpowering Jacana. My eyes on this game said that Jacana had a lot of the footy and torched it. Coburg Districts was smarter, used the ball better, and Kyle Dalmau, who made the team of the year last year, absolutely tore this game to shreds. So Coburg Districts starting to come good, and if the rumour mill is to be believed, might be getting even a little bit better in the very near future. Yeah,
and they'll get to boost the percentage against the Heights and the Thunder in the next couple of weeks. That's before a game against Roxy. Well done to Coburg Districts. They're starting to really get it rolling now, and it's all coming together nicely. And there was a few question marks early in the year. A really bad result. I think it was against Moonee Valley, was it? A really, really bad result for the Districts earlier. Yeah. And they've turned that around. So congratulations to them. And yeah, it's all about for them. I suppose once they get something that resembles their best 22 out on the park, then they're pretty formidable. But as far as Jacana's concerned, look, they're a bit up and down, but it's probably okay. I mean, they've got some good young kids down there. It looks like the culture within is really, really good now. There's a lot of belief back there around the place, and they'll get it right.
Can Hadfield go unbeaten? They commandingly beat Moonee Valley in the end. Moonee Valley on a 2-game losing slide after starting the year 4-0. But if Hadfield get through this weekend and they get through Roxburgh Park, I mean, I'm putting it on the table for the first time this year. No one had previously said unbeaten season was a possibility. I'm putting it on the table now. Is it possible?
I come into work every Monday morning, Teo, and there's a big Hadfield fan that I work with, and he's always asked me, how did Hadfield go? How did he go on the weekend? How
big a fan can he be if he doesn't know the result by Monday?
And so every time he asks me how they went, I have to stop and think, because I don't remember, and it's because I'm not taking any notice of Hadfield right now. And the reason is they're that much better than everyone else. I really do believe that. It's going to be tough right now for any of Roxy, Coburg Districts, Jacana, Moonee Valley, based on the exposed form, to knock off Hadfield. They're just going that smoothly at the moment. We've never seen a team come down from Div 1.
Are they just waiting for injuries and attrition to strike, I suppose?
Maybe.
Pick their moment.
Maybe. I'm not sure. But we'll see how Haddy goes this week. A test against Roxy, who I don't think they've played yet. So we'll see how they go.
This is the last round of the last unseen team in Div 2.
We'll see. But look, no one's indestructible.
And Roxburgh Park just rolled through a Sunbury 100. Less said the better. Got the job done. Matt Walker's now the top goal kicker in the division. That's good in the absence of Matt Mickelson, as we know. We talked about that in pre-season, who's going to kick a score. Tim Black is probably on track to still be the centre-half forward in the team of the year. Adrian McKinnon is on track to defend his role as centre-half back in team of the year. It all seems to be going quite smoothly down at Roxy.
I may have just painted a bleak picture about the premiership race for Hadfield right now, but we've got 4 teams at 4 and 2, Tayo, and Roxy on top of that percentage-wise right now. And that's the great thing about this division. 4 teams that are all vying for the 3 spots. One of them has to play in a grand final this year, Taylor. Perhaps 2 of them might play in a grand final. We never know. But it's a great division that's playing out this year. And yeah, Roxy, up and down a little bit, but we'll see how they go this week against the benchmark.
Let's go in snake order and go from 2 back up to Premier for the preview then. If you want to click through and listen to the interviews from EDFL Radio, they are part of this podcast. Just go to Show More and you'll have the timecode links to everything, including the game-by-game tips for the weekend. Let's fly through these, Adam. Jacana versus Moonee Valley. I'm tipping Moonee Valley.
Jags,
yes. Okay. Burnside Heights versus Coburg Districts. Coburg Districts, I think the margin will be 60-ish. Maybe 80-ish if they kick away.
No, I reckon this might blow out to the 100.
100?
Yeah. Well, these Burnside
dangerous.
Heights.
There's a lot of Burnside Heights people listening after last week.
I know that, Teo, but when they have a big win, there seems to be a bit of a letdown in the next week. We've seen that with both them and East Sunbury. So, Coburg Districts might just punish them for that.
All right, Hadfield versus Roxburgh Park. I'm tipping Hadfield. I hope it's close. Look, for the sake of the league, I hope it's close because we can't have them that far above that it makes it a formality. It'd be nice that they have to earn it,
We will find out. We will find out just how big the gap is between Hadfield and the rest of the comp. Hopefully it is close as well, but I'm not tipping against the Hawks just yet.
East Sunbury versus Keilor Park. I've tipped East Sunbury in the record. I think you've tipped East Sunbury in the record, actually. My reasoning is Ash Fleming. Everyone who's played against him or seen him now says that he is one of the best forwards in the league and one of the best footballers in the league. So he's a veteran, but he has still got it. And I don't know if there's anyone at Keilor Park who can stop him if he's standing at full forward.
Yeah, well, all reports were, even after Saturday's result for Keilor Park, that maybe a few more have walked out, and we spoke about Sarkis and Delizia as well. And if the situation is that dire, then I can't see them winning this week.
Well, I hope that, as we've said, the club has recognised that the Burnside Heights is the low point, and this week is the week that the hands went back on the pump.
If they've got some heart, if they've got any care and got some heart in them, then they can win on heart, definitely. But right now I'm tipping East Sunbury.
Division 1, Glenroy versus Oak Park. Roy's winless. Oak Park have had a couple of close shaves, but have won more than they've lost this year. I'm tipping Oak Park, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes right down to the wire again.
Yeah, not 100% sold on Oak Park just yet. They might be prone to a bit of slippage every now and then, but I'll still be tipping them away.
What about the game between Taylors Lakes and East Keilor?
Yeah, I'll spend a bit of time thinking about this one, Teo, but I still think Taylors Lakes will get the win. I know I've half written them off this year, but they've got to get. If they believe, I know they believe they can play finals and have an impact, and if that is the case, they need to make a statement against East Keilor. So I'm going to tip them, especially at home.
Tullamarine versus Hillside. Taylors Lakes for me, just Tullamarine versus Hillside. I'm going with Tulla. I think Hillside might come back to earth a little bit after just the emotion of last week, and we saw plenty of flaws in the way that they play. I mean, it wasn't an infallible performance. I reckon Tulla a bit better drilled at the moment, and obviously a lot closer to their best 22 at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. And look, even though they didn't get the win against Dooders, I mean, if they're going to dictate the game the way they did, then it probably means that they're a well-coached side. We probably did say that against West Meadows, and they'll not let one slip against Hillside, I don't think.
Dooders versus West Meadows, I'm tipping Dooders. West Meadows would be, they've done some work over the week off, but I still think that they can't close the gap to the top 2 just yet.
Am I allowed to tip against Dooders at Dooders?
You are allowed to tip against Dooders at Dooders.
Nah, I'm tipping Dooders. They'll win. And really looking forward to this game, though, because like you mentioned, West Meadows are bouncing back, and we'll see how they respond. If all reports are true that Dave Connell's drilled into them this week and tried to get a response out of them, then we'll see how they go. And it'll be a pretty good game here at Nipper Jordan on Saturday. And if I was Dooders, I wouldn't be underestimating West Meadows because they'll be breathing fire if the coach has had his way. I still think Dooders has too much class, though.
And quickly through Premier, Northern Saints versus Strathmore. How far Strathmore? I think it'll be 60 or 70.
They'll respond after the loss to Avondale, so it'll get to 100.
Avondale versus Maribyrnong Park. I'm not back on Avondale Heights bandwagon, but I think they'll win this one at arm's length, at least 30 points.
Yeah, I reckon it'll be closer to 50 for Avondale.
Greenville versus Keilor. Even if Tom Hill isn't right, but I assume he will be, I think Greenville will win this. Again, arm's length, 4 goals, 5 goals.
I think Keilor can take it up to him. Tom Hill's presence on the ground might be a bit of a factor if he's not there, and obviously it brings these teams a bit closer. But look, Greenvale's a team with a lot of firepower, and Keilor tends to struggle against that, so I'll go with the Jets.
We flagged it in the discussion segment earlier, West Coburg versus Airport West, that we're both picking West Coburg.
Yes.
What sort of margin, though? I reckon this will still be close. I reckon they'll win by 3 or 4 goals. Yeah,
it's just about be gaming around almost. If the broadcast game doesn't deliver, then this one might be the next best of the round. But I'm tipping West Coburg, who have been very disappointing in recent weeks, and at least they're showing something. And I really do believe in what Digby Morell's trying to do down there. So I'm going to tip West Coburg in that one.
And best until last, arguably, Aberfeldy versus Pascoe Vale. Adam and Russell and I both tipped Abbas on camera. So who are you tipping?
I have actually refused a VFL game to do this game, Tail, on Saturday on the radio.
Well, I did make the case it might be better than some VFL games.
Well, there you go. I'm making sure I'm going to be there, and if I'm as sick as a dog, I will still be at Clifton Park, just ghosting you and Dave in the box while you guys call the game. That's how keen I am to watch this one. I'm tipping Abbas. They're at home, and I did mention Pascoe Vale. We haven't been tested too much just yet. They passed a test against Greenvale, but Greenvale potentially undermanned in that game. And Abbas have not faltered at all so far this year. I'm tipping Aberfeldy.
Well, that's it for the EDFL podcast. If you
have you given your tip, Taya?
Yeah, I said on camera. I tipped Aberfeldy.
What do the listeners want to know? Just double checking.
It's still Aberfeldy.
Okay.
If you've enjoyed the EDFL podcast, let us know. If you didn't enjoy it, I probably won't have a choice in whether or not you let us know. And make sure you subscribe to the EDFL YouTube channel. Plenty of material on there. And for those of you who are listening to this start to finish, we're going to jump into the interviews from EDFL Radio at the weekend. Thanks for joining us. He's Adem Sariacoglu. My name's Teo Pellizzeri. From the Northern Saints has joined us on the line. It's Nat Caruso. Nat, thanks for joining us on Northwest FM Football. And
how you going?
Very good to speak to you. Thank you, Nat. Northern Saints away at Keilor today. How are the boys feeling heading into what is a very important game for your club?
Yeah, they're feeling the vibe's pretty good in the rooms, and hopefully they come out and give it a good contest today.
Nat, Adem Sariacoglu here, mate. Thanks for joining us. How are you going at the moment, mate? We know it's been a pretty tough year for yourself so far. You haven't been able to get on the park and whatnot. How are you progressing with your recovery?
Yeah, it's definitely tough watching, especially when you do a serious injury as a knee. But yeah, recovery's going really well. Everything, operation went well, and so just all about taking care and doing my rehab, to 110%.
When you went in for the surgery, Nat, was the primary goal to have a surgery that allowed you to play your best footy again, or do things like work and quality of life, were they the number one considerations when you actually went in to have the operation?
Yeah, look, I could have not done it and just lived without an ACL, but I love me footy too much, and and work, climbing up and down ladders, not going to help. It could give way if I don't do the strength work in my quads and so forth. So yeah, definitely get the best way possible, and that was to do the hamstring graft, and so they put me out of the year. So but it's going well.
When a footballer like yourself that does work in the trades industry suffer a serious injury, how tough is it to get work and life back on track, and how disruptive is it to suffer a serious injury like that and be able to keep basically life on track and life on the go?
It's definitely hard, but you definitely got to get income protection, especially if you're a sole trader, and you got to do all the right things. And trying to manage what you can to make work flow while you're still recovering.
Nat, obviously we know you've had a lot of coaching experience, a premiership coach not so long ago yourself, and obviously Steve Cassesi is now in charge at Northern Saints. But has this allowed you to take up some sort of role on match day or during the week for the boys?
To be honest, I haven't been down at the club. Excuse me. I haven't been down in the club for the last 3 weeks just because I can't be able to drive, and it's just been a bit hard. So today's pretty much my full first time, at the club, sort of watching and making sure that they're going to do a good job. So no, I'll definitely give pointers to the boys, but I'll let Steve do all the talking and the match plays.
Nat, Adrian, Jamieson here, mate. Now you got Keeler today.
Yep.
All out attack, or have you planned to match-ups with Keeler because they've got quite a few quality players, or do you just play that brand of football that you played last year, where just open and flowing and just try and hit the scoreboard?
Yeah, look, Keeler got a few talented players, and I think 4 or 5 of them played in the rep side at the start of the year, and Kane and Big Brownie, Joycey, they're going to be hard to match up on, and we just got to play one-on-one footy and beat them at the contested footy, and then try and work on the spread to get them off guard. So if we can stop those 3, we'll go pretty close. But that's if we bring the right mindset to the game.
It looks like there's 2 or 3 clubs, maybe 4 right now, that they're in the relegation threat. How important is it for the Northern Saints to stay up this year?
It's definitely important. We're trying to build the area, trying to build the culture around the club to a more professional environment, and keeping up another year. They always say the second year is the hardest in Premier League, and we definitely got the talent and the youth, to stay up there and match it with the best. Just got to get that couple more professional players just to guide these young blokes.
And as far as Steve Kostevski as a coach, what are your impressions of him so far? He's obviously in the deep end as far as EDFL footy is concerned in his first season in this competition, but he's not short on confidence and he's not short on ideas. So how do you assess how he's taken to the job so far?
Steve's been great from day one. Making new plans. For trying to improve the side and get a winning side, defensive side. It's just things that it's hard when you don't have as much depth as the other clubs do. So, but he knows his footy, and he's doing a pretty good job considering.
And just lastly, Nat, before we let you go, how much have you been speaking to Fort, your brother, since the injury, and what has he been telling you about the burden of responsibility that's fallen on him to be a leader in that midfield, and also to basically try to make up as best he can for your absence in the team?
Yeah, look, Fort's one of those. He doesn't say much. He just head down, bum up, and plays well every week. And he's, to his credit, he's been him and Bazman been trying to win the footy out of the middle to get the boys up and going, and it just makes it hard when you can't be out there to help these blokes. And protect these blokes.
Well, enjoy your first day back at the footy since the surgery, Nat. We wish you well in your recovery, and looking forward to seeing you back on the field in round 1 next year. Thank you so much for joining us on EDFL Preview.
Thanks, guys.
Joining us on the line, the president of the Hadfield Football Club. They are the last remaining unbeaten team in Division 2 at the moment. It's not unexpected, of course. A very good team off to a good start to the year, and Mark Stefanac, the president, is on the line. Mark, thanks for speaking to us on EDFL Preview.
No problem, Stan.
Now, it was around this time last year that you took over as the president mid-season. Obviously, a very tough first year in the job with the team getting relegated, but it must be putting a smile on everyone's face that the seniors have made an unbeaten start and have got off to such a strong, positive beginning to life in Division 2.
Exactly, mate. Look, last year, we had a couple of circumstances that didn't help us during the course of the year, and unfortunately we went down. We took our medicine, appointed new coaches. They brought some fresh blood into the team. A lot of good young blokes we retained from last year. And, at this minute, they're ticking all the boxes, and, I couldn't be happier.
Mark, Adem Sariacoglu here, mate. Thanks for joining us today. Clubs can handle relegation in 2 different ways. They can either, crack the sads and, just be upset for a couple of years and just be a miserable old bunch, or they can actually embrace the fact that they're going to be more competitive and start winning games, and everything's a lot more rosier and more positive simply because of the fact that you're singing the song at about 5 p.m. each Saturday afternoon. Is that the sort of vibe we're getting around Hadfield right now?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Look, winning, just breeds breeds a great culture. Everyone's sort of happy around the place. Everyone's more than happy to put their hands up to work around the club. And it seems to be that everyone's sort of pulling together, and it's a positive attitude at the minute.
Mark, Adrian, Jamieson here. Now, Moonee Valley today, you're playing down at Moonee Valley. They dropped last week against Coburg Districts. How are the boys going about their preparation for this one?
Well, I expect the preparation to be the same for any team we played this year. I expect my coaches to be thorough. I expect, to leave no stone unturned. In my opinion and my estimation, Raf and John Colitis are doing their bit correctly, and we've got Craig Burrows running the bench for us, and keeping everyone in check and keeping their heads close to the ground, and working hard for each other.
And on the subject of Raf and John, I guess new coaches, the first time the club's had a coach change in about a decade, so obviously something totally new for the club. How have they taken to life as coaches? They're both players as well, and I actually saw them doing some homework out at a Twilight game a couple of weeks ago, so it seems as though they're having fun doing the job.
Yeah, they are. They're both terrific blokes. Chase, he's been in the system for a fair while, and Raf's been, outstanding for our club. Not only as a coach, but he's a part of our social committee. So, he brings a positive vibe to the team, to the club, and they leave no stone unturned. They do their homework, and that's all I can really ask as president.
Just following up on what I asked before about obviously being able to enjoy your footy again. We were down at Hadfield for Web TV probably a month ago now, and we filmed it in front of the trophy cabinet, and how exciting is it to be obviously going into a season trying to chase a bit more and fill that trophy cabinet again once more at senior level?
Oh, well, like any club, that's our goal. That's what we strive for, and this year, if we can do everything right and be good enough to put ourselves in a position to play off for a grand final, and be good enough to win it, then we'd welcome it. Like any club, we'd love to have some more silverware in the trophy cabinet. So hopefully, we do well today again, and we just keep rolling on.
Well, Mark, all the best for the game at Moonee Valley. Division 2's been very unpredictable this season, but you guys have been the one constant on this winning streak. So all the best, and enjoy the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us on EDFL Radio.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks very much, boys. Wish you all the best for the day.
I'm here with Rusi Komaitai. How was those last couple of minutes?
It was just pressure on us in the midfield. I've been playing all right, dominating him in the midfield through the game, but then come those last minutes, he just come over and, they've turned it up in the last minute. We had to lock down on all their defenders and just hope the best.
How does that feel win?
Oh, excellent. I played some senior games last year, 5 or 6, playing all these senior games, and I haven't won a single one, so I'm a bit teary right now.
Claire,
So
let him sing the song. Let him sing the song.
Go sing the song.
Thank you so much. What was your name?
Thank you, Claire Varley. What a win for the Hillside Football Club.
Joining us in the box is our Sportsmoves best on ground, Victor Micallef from the Hillside Sharks. Have you ever played in a game with a finish quite like that?
Oh, mate, never. Well, not since juniors anyway, in the grand finals. But that was definitely one of the best games we ever played in.
So, did the team mentally switch off and put the cue in the rack, or was that credit to Glenroy? Because we noticed throughout the course of the day they were kicking goals in time on of every quarter. We just didn't think they had it in them one last time in the final term.
Well, that's just something we lack on every the last 5 minutes of every quarter. We seem to slacken off for some reason. Don't know why. We're trying to work on that, and so it probably seems like Glenroy got back in the game in the last 5 minutes of every quarter.
Victor, congratulations on the win. What an incredible match. One thing that I thought was really good about the way Hillside played today was the way you moved the ball through the corridor. It seeed obvious to us. Is that something that I guess you work on during the pre-season?
Yeah, definitely. We've worked on it all the way through. Always worked on to move the ball in the middle. It's the quickest way to the 50, and we've done that really well today. We've lacked it in the last few games, but today we've done it very well.
Is that because the ground is so wide, or is it because that's the way you think you'll kick better scores? Or?
Yeah, we think it's just probably better off. We get kick better scores if we go down the middle.
Well done on a great individual performance today. What's your relation to James? Is he your brother? Or?
Yeah, my brother. My brother.
I reckon he had a good day today as well.
Definitely
so a good day for the Micallefs.
Yeah, it was good. It's good. Yeah. It's our first time we've played together for a number of years, since under 10, so it was good to get him down to the club. We've been here for a few years now. And
there is a third brother, isn't there, that played?
No, that's a different Micallef.
Oh, is
related.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, did the belief waver in the squad through the first month of the season? Because Adam and I were both quite enthusiastic about your team in pre-season. We've been caught by surprise by some of the results, but did it catch the playing group by surprise that you were so far off in a couple of those games?
Yeah, well, it was a big surprise actually. Coming into the first round, our first three practice matches we played really well. We up and about, won all three of them. And then it was just came out first round, got smacked, and then just very surprised.
What's it like coming off what is ultimately a 2-week break, isn't it, for you guys? You had the Good Friday week off and then the bye. What's it like? You must feel like footy's new again almost.
Yeah, it was. It's just like it's about you play the first couple of games and you get into a routine, and you have the bye, and it's a bit like, you've got to get back into the routine again. You don't have a game on Saturday, so you're sort of losing a bit of fitness for not running all game and stuff like that. So it was hard to get back into.
Adam, any more questions for our Sports Moves Best on Ground?
How good was that song compared to others throughout your time at Hillside?
The song?
Yeah, how good was it?
Oh, it was good. A bit messy. We've got about 13 new players. So it was a bit messy, but the other boys around, the reserves and that got around it, so it was good.
And where were you when the siren went? Like, were you in the back 50 trying to defend? Were you further up the ground? Like,
I was just on the 50 here in the back. Yeah.
Did you get in and get a word in the umpire's ear? Did you know that the siren had definitely gone before the mark, or did you even hear it?
I had no clue.
How crushing would that have been if he'd been able to take his kick?
Would have been terrible.
I doubt we would have got the van out of here, to be honest, given how rowdy the crowd was.
Yeah.
But congratulations on being our Sports Moves Player of the Day. Don't take this one with you because it's way too big. But if I can just get you to hold it up, and you will be receiving a hoodie as our Sports Moves Best on Ground. Thank you very much to our Sports Moves Best on Ground, Victor Micallef from the Hillside Sharks. Well played, and you'll be getting a hoodie of your own very soon. Thanks for joining us on Northwest FM Football.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to welcome in the Hillside Sharks coach now, Steve Burns, his first win since arriving at the club. It's been coming a little bit longer than we thought, but it will be sweet relief. And as he joins us in the box now, Steve, have you ever been involved in a finish to a game quite like that one, where for starters the team's kicked 4 goals in time on the last against you, and then they've been denied by a split second on the final bell?
I've coached in a lot of games that have gone down to the wire, but nothing like that. I just felt for the players so much. I was just hoping and hanging on that the umpires were going to do the right thing and pay the right decision. But it was just a great win for the boys. They're such a young group. I think our midfield today was 2 18-year-olds, 2 19-year-olds, and a 20-year-old. So. You've got 5 kids under 20 taking on the might of Glenroy, and the quality players they've got going through there. It was just a great performance by our kids.
There's still the main things that are really big factors when a game comes down to the wire like that. One's your fitness, can you run out the game? The second one can be discipline, and there was a free kick out of the middle after a Glenroy goal. As exciting as it is to have the win and all of that, do you quickly remind the boys to, you've got to keep your head on?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I spoke to them straight away and just told them the lack of composure in the last bit of the game wasn't good enough. But as I said, they're a team of kids, and you're going to get the good and the bad with them. And we've probably copped the bad most of the time with them. We've had a lot of injuries. We've played 36 players already this year, which is phenomenal in 5 games of footy. And we've played 7 under-18s already, which shows you the talent that we've got at this footy club. So it's vital that this club stays up in Division 1 to give these kids a home to play in instead of going down to Division 2, which we don't want.
You said at the season launch that Adam and I had overrated your team a little bit in the pre-season. We got a bit too excited by some of the recruits coming in. But were you expecting the team to be waiting this long for the first win?
Look, with the draw we had, I think everyone got excited because we recruited Stocko, Rocky, and Ross Waitman. But Rocky's played 7 minutes before today, and he still wasn't right today. Ross Waitman's been injured and sort of running around on one leg, but he was outstanding today, I thought. And Matty Stocko's been trying to do it all on his own. We've had to play midfield and not forward because of the youth we've got in there. So, it was always going to be hard for us. And as I just said to Adam, we've used 36 players. Every week there's 5 changes, and it's really tough. But when we've got if we ever get our best side on the ground, I think we're competitive with everybody, maybe bar the top 2 sides who to me look like they're streets ahead at the moment.
You mentioned the young players on a number of occasions. I really love the looks of young Jaden Murdoch. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
First game in the seniors today, 18 years old. He's down at the Jets. He's in and out of the Jets. He's dominated under 18 footy this year. He kicked 4. He's an outstanding kid.
I think the Jets coaches will want to get a hold of the video after today.
Don't give it to them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'll be ringing Torrin tomorrow and talking to him about Jaden and the other boys who are down there, because they've got a bye next week, I think. So I'm hoping to get a couple more of them to play. But he's a really good kid.
If it's a silly question, pull me up on it. But how many Western Jets are in your best 22?
4.
4?
Yeah. Plus, there's probably another 2 of the under-18s that would be in our best 22, I reckon. So if we could get them all, we'd probably have 6.
When you prepare for Glenroy, how much time goes into Julick? Because we thought that they waited too long to pull the trigger and move him ahead of the ball, but you guys kicked the ball to him that many times when he was behind the ball playing in the back 50.
Yeah, we spoke about Julick before the game. It's one thing, these kids don't know who he is. That's the thing, and it's really hard until they play him to actually see what he does. But I thought Monkey, who's normally a ruckman, number 37, Shannon Ball, played pretty well on him at centre-half forward, and I don't think Trav had that much of an influence on the game as a centre-half back. I think he looked really dangerous when he went forward, but I was just hoping he wasn't going to play on ball, because if he had to play on ball, we were going to struggle to match up on him.
How have Shalander and Sardakis pulled up? We noticed Sardakis had to come off with a bit
Chris
of
has done his hamstring for the 3rd time for the year now, and Ed Shalander's okay. Nathan Marizita's done an ankle, but he was begging to go back on in the last bit of the game, so we'll see how he goes. But we had Troy Stone, Jared Catania and Harry Charters all come through the seconds today, and they all got through, so we're hoping to get them back next week.
All premiership players.
Yeah,
players,
yeah.
With Stocko and Ferraro, as you said, new players to the side. Stocko, how's he started the season, and how important was his last quarter today in, I guess, building towards the latter part or the middle part of the season?
He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. What a man to coach. He just does everything I ask. He takes it on board. He's actually been put into the leadership group as of this week, because he's just brought everything good to the footy club. And look, he wants to play full forward, but we put him on the ball, and you see what he does when he's on the ball. He's just outstanding. He's such a quality person, and a really good footballer. I can see why he kicked all the goals he did in A grade last year, but he's been fantastic for us. Been really good.
Well, Steve, thanks for giving us your time after the game. We ran the full gauntlet of emotions here in the box. I can only imagine how you feel as the coach.
But before you go, Steve, so you were obviously beneath the siren. You heard the siren quite clearly.
Yeah, I was definitely. He didn't mark it beforehand.
Yeah.
Would you have, if the umpires had let him take the kick, would you have done something to try and not let the kick be taken, or would you have just let it happen?
Oh, you can't.
I know we're dealing in hypotheticals, but
what can you do? I can't run out into the ground and go, I know what happened here, but I don't know what we might have put in a review
do the
afterwards.
Timekeepers have a say in that sort of?
Not sure what the timekeepers. I don't know if they can, if their voices would have been heard with 44 players surrounding the umpires. Yeah.
But it's once the umpires put their hands up, it was a massive relief for me. I'm getting a bit old now, and the old ticker was the old ticker was going.
We didn't know Hillside had won until we saw them, pumping fists and celebrating.
Yeah.
And for 30 seconds there, we thought Glenroy had the kick.
Yeah, just on the umpires. Look, and I've been pretty critical of. I've had a couple of conversations with Rowan Saws. I know we won, and it makes it look like, but I thought the girls were absolutely outstanding today.
Funnily enough, we said, even when the margin was 4 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals in the last quarter, and we thought the siren was imminent, umpires have been great, barely noticed them, and then they had the out on the full decision in the pocket and the siren decision at the end of a day where otherwise, I think maybe it's reflective of how well they did that we got the right result in the end. Yeah.
They got both decisions right as well, which is all we can ask. So I actually thought they were really good. So I'll give Rowan a call this week and say thanks. Well done.
Steve, congratulations. All the best for the rest of the year.
No worries. Thanks for coming down, boys. Thanks for coming down to Hillside. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Steve Burns, the Hillside coach, joining us on Northwest FM Football. Home by 2 points in the end against Glenroy. As we welcome Lance Whitnall into the box here on EDFL Review, the Glenroy coach. Lance, how does that stack up with tough defeats that you've suffered through your playing and coaching career?
Pretty high up there. We've this is probably the 3rd or 4th one now, the close one we've had, and just gone down by under a goal, and it's getting pretty hard to take at the moment.
Did you even hear the siren on the outer side of the ground?
No, didn't hear it at all.
I can tell you we didn't hear it from here.
And you're right next to it.
We're right next to it, so...
No,
the cameraman heard it, Adem, who was outside the box, heard it, we inside the box didn't, but how tough was that for you when you saw the Hillside players celebrating and knowing that you wouldn't be lining up for potentially the match-winning goal?
Very tough. I looked at the umpire, and umpire had paid the mark, so I was thinking, they're going to complain. The umpire's going to go back and say, yep, I've paid the mark. I didn't hear the siren. Unfortunately, don't know what happened, but didn't get paid the mark. So, we just got to move on and deal with it. There's a lot of things that was, we had a chances to win. We just didn't do it again.
With that said, your team did fall, 5 kicks down in the last quarter. Did you believe, given how well you'd finished quarters, that you still had one last burst, given that you ran over them in the first quarter, were finishing strong in the second, and had more or less got the better of them at the end of the third? Yeah,
it seemed to be most late in quarters we were the ones charging, and I knew we had another go in us. Our midfield rotation came off, and they'd gone back on ready to fresh for the last 6 minutes. So I knew we'd have a crack at them, and I knew that they had a few players that hadn't been playing for a couple of weeks. So I thought they'd run out of legs, and they did, but we just didn't have enough to get over the top of them.
Lance, we just mentioned the legs. Do you think it's a matter of you guys finishing the quarters off well, or do you think that maybe you're not starting the quarters well enough, or is it a combination of both?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We just touched on inside. We're not starting as well as we should be. It's taking us a fair way into the quarters to sort of get into the gears and sort of what we're supposed to be doing and our structures and so forth. And yeah, we're just definitely not starting games and starting quarters well. Other sides are, and we're playing catch-up footy right from the start. And we've got to do something about that, and if we can sort of do that early in the games and quarters, we probably can run over sides, because we've got a good young side that just continues to run hard, and when the chip's down they keep pushing, but we're just giving away too much at the moment.
I think you just answered my question. I was going to say, calling the game for me, it felt like Hillside. It was on Hillside's terms for a lot of it. The fact you guys never really were kicked out of it, you always stayed 2 or 3 goals behind, and then obviously got really close in the end. Is there any level of encouragement that you can take out of that? The fact you're able to stay in a game that you probably didn't have much control of?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some positives out of it. I mean, our young kids, we touched about inside as well. We're a really young side this year, completely different to what we've had the last few years. We've had a lot of experience in that. So it's we're a lot young kids, and we know if we do our right things at the right time for long enough, we're good enough. But at the moment, we're just not doing the right things for long enough. Sort of going in and out of games, sort of late in quarters, 5-minute quarters, we're giving them 3 or 4 goals. So that's one thing that's sort of costing us at the moment, and it's probably a lot to do with our inexperience.
Trav Julich, he's a very versatile player. I'm sure you'd like to have a few more Trav Julichs in your side. But talk to us about the way you used him today. Have you had to use him behind the footy for most of the season, or? Yeah, well,
Julich is very versatile. As you said, I'd love to have a couple of them, but to us, Julich's a lot better behind the footy. He reads the play and he sets up his teammates really well, using his big long kick from behind the ball. It's penetrating, so I like having him behind the footy, but you can take a mark and kick a long goal from anywhere. So, and just gives a presence down forward. So at the moment, we're lacking probably a key forward. So Julich's getting sort of moved in patches and games, 5 minutes here and there. He's going forward because we're getting the footy, but then have to put him back. So momentum goes the other way. So yeah, I'd love to have another one, but he's getting thrown around both ends at the moment.
Haven't been tempted to have a kick yourself as the key forward?
No, definitely not this year. My body's well and truly done, and I can't even walk properly these days. So no, definitely not. I haven't even thought about it for me.
On the outside, you can imagine the questions will start coming in about the R word, about the drop. Inside, do you address it? Do you start thinking of ways like, how can we get out of this situation now? I mean, what's the focus going forward?
The focus is just, as a group, we've just got to stick together. We can't now sort of fraction off and sort of split away and have little groups picking. And the best way out of this is just sticking together as a team. Got to try and get the boys to enjoy themselves during the week. They come out a little bit relaxed, so they're not hesitant about what they're doing. So we just got to really get together as a group and stick together. Our results are showing that we're good enough, but we're just not quite to haven't got the kill instinct at the moment. So we just got to keep chipping away and working hard, and we'll get out of this hole.
One big positive, Tremberth today. When we saw him against Oak Park last year, I made sure we nominated him for the Rising Star the very next week. He's gone to another level again. He was prolific today, won so much of the ball in midfield. Was that his best game of the year, or has he been doing this every week?
No, definitely it was his best game for the year. He has been good this year. He's spending more time in the midfield, but he's only, again, just 18-year-old kid, I think, or maybe not even 18 yet. So we're asking young kids to do, the experienced jobs. So he's just work rate and his ability to cover the ground is really an asset for him, and he's playing some good footy at the moment, Josh.
Tell us about some of the new names that we haven't really seen on the broadcast before, like Brown and Del Busso, but also Adam Dennis, who hadn't played since the 2013 Grand Final, I believe, back after a year in the Northern League. Tell us a bit about the impact of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, as he's touched on, we've got a lot of new blokes in our side, so we're a completely different side. We've got Adem back. He was playing at Lower Plenty last year. We've got him back just for some experience. Just someone out in the ground that can direct some blokes and put them into the right positions, because at the moment we're asking 17, 18-year-old kids to run our midfield, to put them up in the setups and make sure they're in position. So basically just getting Adem back just to give a bit of experience, because we're missing Campbell out there, that he just gives that experience, telling blokes where to set up and so forth. So it's more just to help out the young kids that we're asking to do the bulk of the work. So that's great to have Adem back. He'll be, he was a bit rusty today, sort of, fumbled and that a little bit, but he hasn't touched the footies for nearly 8 months now. So he'll only get better as we go.
And you say the playing group can't fraction and needs to stay unified. What about the support staff, the committee? I know it's a very strong forthright committee at Glenroy, and you've had their backing to be the longest serving coach at your current club, bar Mick McGuan, of all 27 coaches in the EDFL. You've got as long a tenure as anyone in this competition. So does that security and the backing that you've had over 6 years give you the confidence that you will find a way to turn it around?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're a close group down in Glenroy, from committee down to the players, and everyone's just supporting each other. What we have to do is just a whole group, the whole club has to just work harder. It's not up to me to work harder just on my own. It's not up to the players to work harder. It's up to the committee as well. I mean, we're pretty close. We're a pretty good group down there that just wants to succeed. So we'll head down, bum up, and I know I've got full support from them. So we'll just work harder and as a group together.
Well, commiserations on the result today. Thank you for a sensational afternoon's entertainment nonetheless, and hopefully next time we speak it's after a win. Lance, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Lance Whitnall, the coach of the Glenroy Football Club, joining us on EDFL Review. We've got Tahan Rafihi on the line. Raf, congratulations on a very important landmark win for your club.
Yeah, look, it was a great win for the boys and for the club to beat an established side like Hillside Park. So, yeah, we're very excited for the guys.
Now, quarter time, it was close, but you were down 30 points to 13. Was that against the scoring end or against the wind, or was that just Hillside Park getting a fast start?
Well, Hillside Park kicked the first 3 goals of the game and really put us under pressure. I think the boys challenged themselves and kicked the next 2 goals to get back into the game. And there was no breeze whatsoever to talk of. So it was just effort. I think Hillside Park just got the run on in that first 10 minutes. And were able to put more pressure on us, and then the boys finally just settled down and just took control away from them with the ball, and started moving forward.
And as far as how you turned the game around, who were some of the key players who kicked your goals, and who were your prime movers in midfield that took over the game?
Well, we had Vince Angeloni in the centre, and we had Aaron Schweed who kicked 5 goals for us today. I think our backline defensively with Ash Reid and Matty Maxfield and Wade, who really took control of that backline and just gave us a lot more run off that backline. And having young kids like Bordo Lim and Jesse Bickley and Dylan Citro, 4 under-18 players, really stepped up into that role.
We didn't see this coming. Safe to say that your form line hadn't exactly set the world on fire. Had your team set themselves for this game, or was this just a matter of rising to the occasion?
No, look, I think there's been patches where we've played good footy. It's just we haven't managed to keep it for 4 quarters. I mean, against Moonee Valley, we outscored them. We beat them in that first quarter. Against Hadfield, I know they beat us by 140 plus, but in that second quarter, they beat us by a couple of points. In the last quarter, I think it was only a couple of goals. And against Roxburgh Park, look, that first 10 minutes, Roxburgh Park couldn't get a touch of the ball with the pressure we had. So it was about challenging the boys to keep it together for 4 quarters and mentally just maintaining it for 4 quarters. We knew Hillside Park had been struggling coming into this game, but again, the expectations were on them to win, not on us. So it was exciting football.
What were the scenes like in the rooms, and what does this mean to the club as far as being taken seriously, and especially given you lost to East Sunbury, making sure that other teams do have to take you seriously in the future?
Well, now the challenge is how do we maintain that? I mean, next week we have Coburg Districts, and again, it's another great challenge for the club, great challenge for the boys, because we are a young side and we are learning new game styles. So it's about now, how do we step up? How do we maintain our pressure, our tackles, how do we put the pressure on opposition and just move forward as a club? Look, after the game, obviously the boys were excited. Our captain really stood up and played a captain's game, Dean Borg. And look, it was just, I think the emotion and the relief just came off the boys' chest that, you know what, we can do it. Now it's about maintaining it and just taking that belief into next week, and from then on, obviously, against everyone else.
Well, Raf, thanks for joining us on EDFL Review. Enjoy the win. I'm sure it's going to be a great night for your club, and maybe a sign of things to come in maybe the nearer future than we all expected.
Well, thank you, mate. I appreciate that. You have a good day.